Hey guys, it's your girl Seth, and I don't know why I have my hands look at my hands, they look so big. And anyways, hey, it's your girl Seth. But I just wanted to yap. I feel like I just need to start a series and call it Yap Sessions, because that's all I ever do whenever I come on here. I just be yapping. Y'all know I gotta make the extra hand gestures because I got my nails done. Y'all know when my nails are not done, I kind of be doing all that extra riffraff, but I gotta be more dramatic because the nails are nailing. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about something. So basically, I've been in the book of Job for the past couple of weeks, and something that I've been like pondering about and like learning about. I actually I was about to say I talked to the God about this last night. I talked to God about this last night. Just like different things that I was learning from Job. And I had a theory that popped up in my mind about Job's friends. And so I was like, God, like, why is it that when they saw that basically I was like, God, why is it that when everything that started happening to Job started happening, his friends like instantly turned on him and started treating him, like basically like a delinquent and stuff like that? Like they really started being real disrespectful to Job, and they started really like treating him basically like a what do you call it? Like an outcast. Like they really started treating him like basically like he was an abomination. And I was just listening, well, as I was reading, I was just kind of paying attention to different things that was being said. I don't have my Bible on me right now, but if I did, I would just point out some things that they were saying. But it was just like looking at the different conversations and then thinking about, okay, y'all are supposed to be his friend, but then also thinking about, like, if they're his friend, they've seen his life, they've seen his walk with the Lord, they've seen how he was interceding on behalf of his children before the Lord, making sacrifices for them, ministering, being a philanthropist, how God was prospering him, how he was like they've seen his walk, all the ins and outs of it, because these are people that were considered his friends. These weren't just like random people that were just like from the outside looking in. No, these were like people that were close friends to Job. And as soon as everything was taken from him and he started to suffer and be in pain and anguish and get sick and all of these things, they immediately labeled him a sinner and were like, you're suffering the wrath of God because you've done something to offend God. But I'm just like, thinking about that in the aspect of, what about the times when we as a people, we're faithful to God, we worship him, we serve him with everything that is within us, and our friends, they ought to know us, especially people who we consider to be close friends, like those in our inner circle. Because when I think about it, as I'm reading the book of Job, I'm like, these are people that are in his inner circle. Like they know Job, they know who he is, they know what type of man he is. He's a man of integrity and character, and even being eyewitnesses to Job's character, they still choose to accuse him. And another thing that's just like now popping up into my mind is just like they were being used by the enemy. And so one thought that I had was that they had to have been jealous of Job, because they saw how God was prospering him, and they probably had all this pent up jealousy and envy and animosity towards Job because they saw how well God was prospering him, and they probably wanted the things that he had, but they weren't like Job. They weren't like him. They probably couldn't even amount to half the man that Job was. And it's the fact that God saw Job as righteous. It wasn't that the people saw Job and were like, that's a righteous man, but God said that Job was a righteous and a just man. God said that himself. And so my bad, y'all, it's hot over here. But so when all these things started happening to Job, they were like, oh man, this is the perfect opportunity to, harp on Job, because he already down and out. Let's make it even worse for him, because we already feel some type of way about Job. We don't like Job because God blessing him, God is prospering him. He got all these things, he got all the kids, he got a beautiful wife, his wife is absolutely gorgeous. We wanted what Job had, and now it's gone. And so now we gonna make it even worse. I'm not saying this is what they were thinking about Job in the situation, but it's like, it goes to show that you could do everything right. And Job was probably, like, when I think about the character of Job was probably blessing his friends too. You need some money? Yeah, I got you. You ain't even gotta pay it back, type stuff. Oh, you want to eat? Let's go have a feast at my house. And he probably treated them very well. When I think about Job, I think about a person who's very giving. He's very, he has the heart of a servant. What can I do for you? And I don't know, whenever I think about Job, I really do think about a guy who has good character, good morals. He fears God. Like God said, he's a man who fears God and eschews evil. He is almost perfect, by our earthly standards. He would be considered someone that's perfect. And God saw Job and blessed him and prospered him. And I really do think that Job was a guy who considered other people before himself, because like I said, he literally stood in the gap, interceded, and made sacrifices so that his children would be in good standing with the Lord as well. So it just kind of goes to show that sometimes you gotta be careful of who is in your, even in your inner circle, because I feel like these guys, because he felt so comfortable to even confide in these men and be like, yo, I really need some comfort right now. I need a word of encouragement. I need somebody to lean on right now. I don't know why I'm about to cry, but he went to these people for counsel, and they just literally put salt on an open wound. That's what they did. And that's why it kind of goes into the thought of they were probably really jealous of Job. They wanted all of the things, all the blessings that he had, but they probably weren't doing the things that Job was doing in order to have favor with God like that. And so the gist of what I'm saying right now is know who's co-laboring with you. Who is it that is in your inner circle? Be careful that you know who exactly you are calling your friends, because the same people who are skinning and grinning in your face and making it seem like they cool with you and all of that, they might be waiting on your downfall. And once you hit rock bottom, they are not going to be there to support you and uplift you, but rather try to tarnish your character even more, or add salt to an open wound. Not to say that you shouldn't have any friends. We don't need to be out here riding solo dolo, but just have discernment about who you put in your inner circle. Don't go around telling your business to everybody. Everybody don't need to know what you got going on. Be very particular, be very strategic, and ask the Lord for discernment, because it's good to have people in your inner circle who, when you fall, they're gonna lift you back up, who, when you're weak, they're gonna pick up the slack a little bit until you recover your strength. People who are gonna war for you and with you, people who are gonna stand in the gap for you as you stand in the gap for them. People who are gonna speak life into your situations instead of harping on your mistakes and your shortcomings, or even insinuating that things are happening to you because you did something wrong. Because the truth is, the story of Job is that God saw something in Job. God knew something about Job that basically says this: I know his heart. I know that if anything were to come up against him, he will never deny me. He will never deny the Lord. He will never reject the Father. He would never speak a word against God. He would never speak a word against God to reject him or to curse God. Like he knew the heart of Job, that at the end of the day, Job is God's that's his man, you know what I'm saying? That's he had a knowing that no matter what weapon came up against Job, Job was going to stand firm on, well, whatever the will of the Lord is, that's what it's going to be. He had so much faith in God that even until death, Job was going to stand on God is good. He was going to stand on the truth of who God is, and there was nothing that was going to pluck Job out of the hand of God. So that's the Yap session for the day. I need to get more consistent. But anyways, I'll see you on next video. Bye. Love you. Wait, there we go. Okay, bye.